Hello guys, and we are on level 4, Cathedral. Now, this level is a bit familiar, especially familiar to that of level 2, Atrium Complex. And we are going to be fighting a few familiar faces in this level. He was eager to die, by the looks of it, but yeah, he threw his axe too early, it seems. But yes, the Devil Monks return in this level, and they still have their deadly thrown axes, but I find that their AI tends to have them throw their axes a lot more often in this level, so they're kind of suicidal in a way. But yes, there are a lot of barrels in this level, very much like Atrium Complex. So it's basically Deja Vu, the same sort of thing as Atrium Complex, but just on a larger scale. There's going to be a lot more enemies to deal with, but I do kind of like this level more than Atrium Complex because there is a lot more space to move around. But I do think that it does become a bit more challenging than what Atrium Complex was for a few reasons. And even though it starts off pretty simple, I do think the AI of the Devil Monks is a lot more advanced this time round, as they do like to throw their axes a lot more. At least that's what I've noticed. But yeah, they have a different aesthetic now. They have like kind of like a more. They don't have like a plain robe. Their robe has like this green and bloody look to it. I like how they bring back the same enemies, but they look different. Like they have reskins of enemies, which you could say, why can't you come up with original enemies? But let's be honest here. Atrium Complex and Cathedral are both very similar type of levels, and really, it makes sense. Anyways, yeah, I get hit by one of their axes, but what I'm trying to do is shoot the barrels at the left to kill them all. Like, there's a lot of opportunity for environmental damage in this level. Like, there are a lot of barrels, just like Atrium Complex, which you can exploit and do a lot of damage to the enemy. And it's probably even more important to make use of the barrels in this level than it is in Atrium Complex. But there aren't as many barrels, if that makes sense. And I got hit by another one of those axes. Like, I didn't know that one was coming my way, but apparently I'm popular today. Then the thing about this level is that it's nothing really new. It's just the same but enhanced. It's like, you've passed the tutorial now, let's get you straight into the real thing. That's what Cathedral is. And really, I'm just glad to really finally get straight into things, really, and it's starting to become a bit more challenging now. I mean, you've just beaten Catacombs, so really, by now, you'd be used to the challenge, so this is where you start to really get into it, and really get into Painkiller. So, the game knows this, and the game gives you things like these barrels. They just put them there, knowing for certain that the player will think to use them after playing through Atrium Complex. The developers know that the player is going to make use of the barrels, and they put them there with the intention of the player using them. And yeah, they are really useful in this level. They can be really handy, and there are quite a few of them littered around. Now, I think there's a secret above the kind of arches, but I forgot how to get that secret. But I do think it is there. Either that or it's in Hell and Damnation. I'm not sure, because they did change it around in Hell and Damnation. But there are a few secrets in this level, and it might be a good idea to get some of them. But yeah. Anyways, here is our first real mini-boss fight. I call it real because it's the only mini-boss to actually have a health bar, which I find quite interesting, but in a way, this guy is basically just shoot at him until he dies sort of mini-boss. And I suppose he's just a tutorial for the boss fights, really. That's what he is. Like, boss fights have lots of health, so you can't just kill them in one hit. You have to, like, survive them. But he's pretty easy to survive. He is called Vamp Max. He is the strongest Vamp, but unlike the other Vamp from Cathedral, which was weaker, this guy can be killed, which is kind of funny how the other vampire was invincible, even though it was, like, tiny in comparison. Yet these they are called Psychonuns. Yeah, the Psychonuns. The Psychonuns are basically the same as what they always are, really. They haven't changed at all. They're exactly the same. They shoot their fireballs that can stun you. Well, they don't actually stun you, they actually deactivate your weaponry. You can't use weaponry when you get hit by their fireballs. So really, yeah, that's all that's to it, really. Very basic projectile attack, but it doesn't kill them when they use it, so they didn't want it to be too powerful, otherwise it would ruin the balance. Now, this guy likes to shake his ass a lot, and in doing so he causes rocks to crumble from above. Even though the ceiling doesn't seem to be taking any damage, apparently there's a lot of rocks at the top of the ceiling. Or either that or he magically shits them out of his ass. But they come from the sky, so I don't really know whether he's... I don't think that's the case, really. I think he's just performing some kind of a ritual, and it involves shaking his ass to summon these rocks from mid-air. And I don't know whether it's in this or in Hell and Damnation, but I know for a fact that in Hell and Damnation, at least, he actually throws rocks at you. I don't know if that's the case in this version, I've forgotten, but yeah, the Hell and Damnation version of this level is quite different, let's put it that way. Anyways, yeah, just a few more evil monks, I get them confused. And yeah, I basically just want to hit a few barrels with the Painkiller and just exploring, I guess. Pretty much. But yeah, a few things to note on this area that we're in. If you remember the intro cutscene, if you actually bothered to watch the intro cutscene, this is the area where Daniel Garner, the main character, and Samael, the guy with the white hair and the albino face, like the albino skinned guy, this is where they were this is the area they were in when they were talking, and where, like, Samael offered Daniel a chance to go to heaven if he kills the generals. This was the area where that conversation took place, the exact area, if you pay attention to it, which it baffles me. Like, if you started here all along, then why did you go all the way back to the cemetery only to come all the way back here again? It doesn't make sense to me, and that's kind of why I feel that the Painkiller storyline doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't make sense, really, and I actually don't consider it canon. I actually consider it to be the canon plot, to be that you are the pain guy, and you are basically this badass who is kicking demon ass for the hell of it. Basically just like the Doom guy from Doom. Like, you're kicking ass because why the fuck not? Pretty much. Not to save the world, you're just there, and you're just there to kick ass. And that's what I think the story of Painkiller is. The story of Painkiller is, you are a bad motherfucker, and you are here to kick some serious ass. And in a way, that is actually what the story was originally supposed to be about. Originally, it was just the pain guy. He even had a different appearance. Like, he actually had these... He kind of looked like the guy from... Like, the guy from Postal 2. But he kind of had, like, these orange or yellowy shades. And that's what he used to look like. And there is actually a character, like, if you played the multiplayer of Not this multiplayer, because in this multiplayer that model isn't in it, but if you play the multiplayer of the other Painkiller games, like particularly Painkiller, like I think Painkiller Resurrection and maybe Overdose, I'm not sure, but that character model of the original Pain guy is actually in that game, and you get to play as him in multiplayer, which is interesting. And that was the original guy who was supposed to be the main guy, but in the like trailer that they did showing the Pain guy in the development, in the developer like behind the scenes thing, he's actually shown wielding handguns, which just feels weird. And I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't go with handguns in the end, because the weapon selection you get in this game is like pretty much every single weapon is useful. Pretty much every single weapon is overpowered, and that's one of the things that I disliked about Serious Sam in particular. Like, you get 2 handguns and they are basically useless in the latter half of the game because you get swarmed by too many enemies, whereas every single weapon in Painkiller is useful in some way. They're all usable throughout the whole game. You never get tired of them. You never get stuck to or rely on one weapon solely. You're always switching weapons all the time, and that's what makes it so fun, at least to me. So I'm kind of glad they didn't go with that. But as for the story and Daniel Garner, well, I don't know, like, I don't really count him, like, you can count him as the canon protagonist if you want. He isn't that bad of a character. At least he's voiced by a decent voice actor. That's one thing I'll say. Like John Saigan and Cam Clark voicing, like, John Saigan voicing, like, those are like the voices. Like, Cam Clark is the voice of Liquid Snake, and John Saigan, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but John Saigan is the voice of Solidus Snake, and he's the guy who voiced Samael, so, and Cam Clark's the guy who voiced Daniel Garner, so that's interesting. And even though the original concept was like a different character entirely, and the game was originally supposed to be a lot more goofier, with like a goofier protagonist, and didn't take itself too seriously, which in a way is kind of what Painkiller Overdose is all about, which I like to call the Serious Sam 2 of Painkiller, because it's just ridiculous in a good way, but people don't like it for a few reasons, compared to the original at least. I still do like, I like all of the Painkiller games with the exception, at least to some degree. Oh god, that guy was just sneaking up on me right there, but he's about to get punished by the Painkiller and the Stakegun Torment. Like, you can stake people to walls and to floors, and then you can just shank them with the Painkiller to death and just drain them of jewelry, which is just awesome. But yeah, like, I like all of the Painkiller games to a degree, even the really bad ones like Resurrection. There are certain things that I do like about Resurrection, but the only Painkiller game I don't like is Painkiller Redemption. That game was total bollocks, and I say that as a huge Painkiller fan. That game literally put Painkiller to shame. Like, it was just a lazy, like, at least Painkiller Resurrection tried. At least it tried. Whereas Painkiller Redemption was literally an asset flip. It's literally an asset flip of Painkiller, and they sold it separately. They just put recycled enemies and recycled characters and weapons in recycled levels from the multiplayer, so that's how they got away with it. They used levels from the multiplayer. And the only thing that wasn't recycled was the plot, which takes place after Painkiller Battle Out of Hell. And yeah, it includes other Painkiller stories. Like, it's hard to believe that Painkiller is a series. Like, it really is hard to believe that it's become a series now. Like, and nobody ever talks about it. This isn't just a standalone game. It actually spawned a series of games. But people don't talk about that series of games, and I think the reason why nobody talks about Painkiller today, or very few people do, is because of the notoriety of those sequels that Painkiller spawned. And while some I do actually like, Redemption is just absolutely it's just laziness, like, to the point where they just didn't give a shit anymore. I mean, the only saving grace it has is that it's Painkiller. It's got the same gameplay as Painkiller, so really you can't go wrong with that, but like, it's like the laziest game, the laziest Painkiller game you could ever get. Like, it's just a pure asset flip, but the fact that I managed to play through it, at the very least, and like survive the monotony of that game really just goes to show just how good Painkiller's gameplay is. Like, it's infallible. Like, you can't beat it. It's so good that even a game that's terrible can still work because the gameplay of Painkiller is good. Like, you can put Painkiller's gameplay into anything and make it somewhat good. But obviously, like, Redemption was not very good. Like, the level design was pitiful, well, non-existent because it was all an asset flip, but like the way they spawned enemies in the levels was just ridiculous. At least I've got something nice to talk about while we solve this platforming puzzle, or to get this secret. I do like the music that plays in this area, in the cathedral. The like ambient music. Yeah, I was trying to quick save to get this secret. Fortunately, and I was about to give up on this secret, but I decided to give it another go, even though I wasted a lot of time doing it. But I managed to get it, just like barely get it. So like, you guys are lucky that I got to show getting this secret, because I was about to give up at this point. But yes, pretty nice ambient music, but that's what Painkiller is all about. It's not just the visuals that makes this game's ambience so good, it's also the music. Like, this game has a really solid ambience that few other games have, particularly first-person shooters. It's one of those games that you easily recognize, like, for its levels. Like, the levels are just, they're all iconic levels. It doesn't matter what level it is. It's not just like insert reskin level here. Like, every level is unique. They all have their own theme, and they all stand out, and they all have a really good ambience. And that's why Painkiller, really, and that's why I said in my live video, that's why it's my favourite first-person shooter. I love the ambience. And just look at this huge cathedral. Like, you don't really see many levels in video games as grand as this. Like, it is literally just this massive level, and like, you can see how they put so much attention into the level design, like trying to make it detailed but big at the same time. Something that Serious Sam, and this is why I say Painkiller is a better game than Serious Sam, which a lot of people disagree with, but just look at the levels in Serious Sam and then look at this level. Like, in Serious Sam, this would just be a barren, empty level, but in this level, if you pay attention, like, you have barrels everywhere. Like, you don't have them in Serious Sam, for example, and like, I just like the detail, like how the ground, like, look, like you can see like cracks and like this rugged ground that we're walking on, and like, the game isn't afraid to add detail and things that would normally be avoided in a game like this, because it's trying to focus on having like a lot of empty space to move around. Like, but the game isn't frightened to add detail, but still manages to add plenty of space to fight in. Like, if you look here, like, at the design, there's plenty of space to fight in this area. And the barrels, especially in this area, are really intricately placed, specifically to use them to your advantage. And I really do use them to my advantage at this point, and you're going to see me really take advantage of the level design in this level. And I just love how they added like this like multi-leveled area. Like, you just don't see stuff like this in Serious Sam. You just see a big empty rectangular level, and then you move on to another big empty rectangular level most of the time. Well, sometimes you do see this in some of it, but a lot of it is that big empty rectangular level. And still, even with the empty rectangular bits, like, you don't have barrels or anything in the environment to make it more interesting. It's just basically, yeah, we're just going to just throw tons of enemies at you and you have to kill them all. And that's basically all it is. Like, that's all Serious Sam is. There's no depth to the level design at all, for the most part. Like, there really isn't. Whereas, there's a lot of depth to the level design in this game. Even though it's going from one area to the next killing enemies, it's not stale like Serious Sam, because the levels change and you're constantly encountering different types of levels as you maneuver around. So this means that you have to pay attention to the levels and take advantage of them to overwhelm the odds that are against you. And that's what these battles are for, really. Like, you are up against a lot of odds, really. And as you can see here, I do something really epic. Now, if you pay attention, ooh, look at that, like, that was a chain reaction, and I killed every last enemy in that area with that chain reaction just by shooting that one barrel. That was all skill, by the way. That was just all skill. Like, I meant that to happen. Like, I really did mean that to happen. But, yeah, like, I just really like how this game has different types of areas all the time, and, like, it really does put a lot of focus into the level design, which most first-person shooters don't really seem to give a shit about at all. Like, they're just, like, the level design is adequate, but they don't really put that much effort into it. And obviously the aesthetics, well, like, aesthetics in most first-person shooters are just basically half-assed. Like, they just, let's get the game out there, pretty much. But in this game, they are really good. Like, they are really good aesthetics, and they're pretty, like, large in scale as well, particularly Cathedral. Like, this level is huge. It really is huge, but also very detailed at the same time. And you just don't see that in other first-person shooters. Like, it's either big and empty, or small, linear, and a bit detailed. But yeah. And here come the Psychonuns, who have disabled my weaponry, but I just undisabled them. And also a few devil monks with the red orbs of death. And they just hit me with that red orb of death. So there's a demonstration of why you don't go near them. I'm good at demonstrating things, so when you see me playing through games, you'll see me demonstrate getting hit or dying a lot and what to avoid. Let's put it this way, you'll know what to avoid when you've watched me play a video game, because I usually tend to end up getting my ass handed to me by something. But yeah, we're nearly done with this level, so yeah, that's basically it. Decapitation. Yeah. So yeah, like, I don't know if there was any issues, because like, as I'm playing this video back, like, there's some video lag, so there might be some sync issues in this video. I hope there isn't, but if there are, that's why, because the video itself was dropping in frames a little bit. Like, this is a very hard game to keep up with, especially the fraps. Like, I've had tons of problems recording this game with fraps. Tons of problems. But yeah, that's the end of the level. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you when we fight the first boss of the game.